Okay, everyone. Okay, everyone. So if we're all back from a nice after lunch sit, um, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, which is, I feel a little strange because I feel like she needs no introduction. Everybody here knows that Fusatsu has been hosting our virtual retreat. She graciously calls me her co-host, like I'm doing half of it, but she's carrying the lion's share. I'm more just being a little bit of backup. In case you aren't familiar with her other roles, just to be clear about this, she's chair of the communications committee, and in that role, she has harnessed the diverse skills and talents of several members of the sangha and put them to very good use. We've had two website everything rebuilds, replatforming, redesign this year. That has just been a tremendous accomplishment. And on top of that, she supports her local center in Atlanta with their on-site Zoom setups, as you may have seen in the recent ceremonies. So I can't think of anybody better qualified to speak on the World as your Sangha, because she's definitely done tremendous work in terms of bringing virtual Sangha capability to the Silent Thunder Order. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm looking forward to what she has to share.
I show everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to have the time to speak with you about something near and dear to my heart, and that's technology. Um, when Sensei said, "Hey," Sensei Zinku was like, "I think you need to speak." I'm like, "Oh no, I don't want to speak. I gotta do so much other stuff during the conference," but I could not have this opportunity to talk with you about technology and media and all the other geeky things that I love to talk about and do so much. But it is a practice. So what I did is also I created a PowerPoint that I wanted the sanghas to be able to utilize too for training, because I feel like we were in the midst, as COVID was hitting, me and Sensei Elliston were in the midst of, talking about how we can take our programs online, how we can expand the offering out to the community and the Sangha at large. So this was very timely. So COVID hit, it was like a comet that hit the earth, and all of a sudden we had the opportunity to create a lot of various practice opportunities throughout the communities locally and throughout the larger Sangha. And again, I want to just, really send a note of gratitude out to all the senseis, Sensei Elliston, Hojo Sensei, Sensei Zenku, and Sensei Sengaku, and Sensei Teshin. They have been, and I've said this throughout the conference, a huge support to the community, because when I reached out to them and said, we have an opportunity here to be able to support the community across the board. Can I please share your practice offerings and opportunities with the larger Sangha? Is there a way that we can come together for a longer sits once a month? Is there any way that we can help support the Sangha? And they said absolutely yes. And they started sharing their practice paths with us. They were willing to go to the larger, share their sessions with Tricycle Magazine. We've gotten a lot of traction off of that. And so they've just been so willing to be helpful within our community at large. So I'm going to throw up a PowerPoint, but y'all will be able to see me. And then again, just have a few objectives, because I want this to be educational and a learning session, as well as a conversation on how we can help each other build our community, support our community, and evolve. And how really, what does technology and what does media look like as a practice? Because as we have a theme that has rolled through this conference and this retreat, and it started out with Sogetsu talking about, hey, how can we be there to support one another? And you heard it again in Nancy saying, let's do chanting. And the things that I keep seeing and hearing throughout the conference is perseverance, practice, really figuring out what that is and what that means for each and every single one of us in our day to day. And so we're going to just jump into a conversation about how that's evolved for me personally, and how it's evolved as a practice for myself. So let me just do a little share. And let me know, just shake your heads if y'all can see my screen. I can't see y'all, but Cosette, can you see?
Yes.
Just come off of mute for a second. I just want to make sure everybody's
Yes, you're good. Yep.
Okay. All right. Very good. And I just went too far. All right. Okay. So the three objectives that I have with this presentation and conversation is, first of all, who am I? And I think that's important because we've talked about the path and what the journey is, and the journey and the exploration. How did I get here in practicing Zen, practicing and using technology? Uh, how did that evolve? So I think that's a very important part of how the journey evolves. Just like with the Buddha, something, he was sitting in that palace and he was like comfortable. He had everything he wanted. He had all the riches, but there was something that nudged him to say, "Hey, there's something else." And it's something that provoked him to move outside the walls of that palace and got his curiosity going. So what was that for me? And we've heard it from Mukyo today, talking about what those things were that nudged her along the path. So I'll continue that thread and talk about that for myself and how it evolved. As any good Zen practitioner, we have to have a riddle or a koan to that we can talk about through the talk as well. And I also want to talk about how I use technology as a practice for me personally, and how I use that through my as a practice and within the sangha. And then I want to also provide the sanghas tools and resources that they can use to propagate Zen locally, how they can create a presence online and also within their sangha and outside the walls of the sangha. There was a comment earlier this week from Emily, and she was saying, "Oh, it's so hard to find Zen. It's hard to search for it, and it's almost like it's very obscure. And I think it should be easier to find." So we're going to talk a little bit about that. How can we make it to where the teachings and the offerings that we provide are easy to be able to be located. However, there does, as you know, has to have some effort exerted by the practitioners to do that. But at least they're not digging up weeds and trying to figure out where to go to connect with the communities. And we're going to talk about marketing and a little bit more. And also, I'm going to, as Cosette so greatly said, he previewed my talk about, and I want to introduce you to the ASZC and STO communications team. We have like 4 of the 5 team members on the call, so I'll definitely be calling them out in conversation later on. And then Cosette's also talked about some of the projects that we did this year. So we're going to just briefly review some of the things that we did and how it evolved and how we use it in our practice. All right, so who am I? I was raised in Kentucky. I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 23 years. I'm a bona fide nerd, and I'm so okay with that. I'm a servant, a practitioner, a seeker, and more. So how did a nurse get into technology? How did I get to Zen? That's kind of like a very interesting conversation and path. And my dad, who grew up on a farm and still lives on a farm, we'd kind of throw back and forth like, what are some things that you can go into that would be really good, make a good living and a life. And he, I said, hey, I want to be an electrical engineer. And he's looking at me because he's an electrician. And he was thinking, it's, there's a lot of men and, there's not that many people of color. That would be kind of a difficult field to get into. So I said, okay, all right. And then he would just leave these little articles on the table for my grandmother was a nurse as well. And he'd just leave articles on the table and like, oh, this, there's never not a job in nursing. There's your grandmother did. So that's kind of how nursing got ingrained in me. So I did go on that path to become a nurse. And on that path, I actually moved to Atlanta from Louisville. I went to school in Louisville. And moved to Atlanta to become a neuro ICU nurse at Emory. And because at that time I thought I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. And after I got into the field, I was like, nah, maybe that's not so much for me. So I actually bumped into a nurse that was working on the system in the hospital one day shift after I got off of my shift, and she was working with the system and showing me the tools. So we got to talking, and she was an informaticist. She was a nurse informaticist that was installing the software within the hospital system. So that kind of led me my interest, Mukyo talking about Dharma gates and auspicious coincidences that aren't really coincidences, and that really got me nudged into the area of informatics and systems. So I did transitioned out of clinical nursing and went into information systems, and I started working with insurance companies and doing clinical program management, all different things. So I've been doing that for about 20 years. And so I was very much so engaged in that particular part of the field. So now you have a nurse who is basically kind of circling back to the original discussion about electrical engineering and software and technology. And that's kind of how the nursing and the technology, I gotten into technology, and that's kind of how that evolved. The Buddhist path just so happened, and bless my wife who's actually on the call today. She recognized that, I had always mentioned that I wanted to try meditation. So she's driving down in Decatur on Church Street, and there was a meditation center. And she was like, I think you need to go try some meditation. So I, about 15 years ago, stepped into the Shambhala Center, and I stayed there for 12 years, exploring the path of Buddhism and meditation. And so that's kind of how, again, the Kentucky nurse ended up in informatics and became on the Buddhist path. So that's just a little bit about my background. And again, like I said, I think the background is important because that kind of gives you a foundation for where the path leads. So this is the koan, or the riddle for you. What does a 4-H, a farm in Kentucky, and a TI 99 4A have to do with each other? So just hold on to that for a second, and don't try to, you already kind of know what the Kentucky and the farm maybe, but the other is kind of, cool. But just hold on to that, and we'll come back to that for the end. So that's kind of like our Zen-esque koan for this particular presentation. All right, so I stole this from Sensei, and he gave me permission to use this. And he will be talking more about this tomorrow evening. But I love, as a geek, when Sensei threw this document up, I was so entranced by it. For this was the first time I could actually visibly see someone put up like the relational practice and how the practice kind of translate in all aspects of our lives. So the personal, the social, the natural, and the universal. And I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm not going to go really deep into this. But again, practice permeates every single aspect of our lives. And there's no kind of element here that technology and social media and social technologies aren't impacted right now. So for me, it was critical as I started to really interact with technology. I saw the power and the impact that technology and media actually had on people. And I saw the impact that technology had on the world. And so I was like, this can be really, you can use it either way. And it's no definition of good or bad, but it's the way you use technology that has such an impact on yourself personally and also on the world. So this was such a beautiful demonstration of the way that practice permeates every single thing. And I will defer and let that thread run through tomorrow's talk for Sensei. But this was a great tool, and this tool is available, folks, for you to have as part of your practice as well. We can just email us, and we can see how we can get you a copy of this. And Sensei will be going more in depth about the concentric spheres of Zen. But I felt like I had to throw this up because this was, for me, when I first saw this, I was so geeked out because it's hugely expanding in how practice expands into every aspect of our life. So, all right. So for me, when I look at Dharma and principles and media and technology, I took it back to really very basically, what does right view in technology mean? What does right intention in technology mean? What does an eightfold path from a technical perspective, what does that really look like? So, and I feel like when we practice, when we're on the cushion and when we are off the cushion, it's all practice. So when we are building websites, when we're on social media, when we're texting, when we're building websites, when we're doing Dharma bits and Dharma bites and blog posts, we have to look at it from what view are we really utilizing these tools and resources with. Are we recognizing that what we're putting out has consequences? what's our intention and what's the environment that we're creating with the tools that we're entering and interacting with people in the world? How are we, what's the verbiage and what's the wording? What's that really look like on in a technical form? You know, seriously, I mean, it's like it just made more. It was making sense to, side by side, the practice path and the technical aspect of things, because the technology is an extension of who we are. It has a life and an energy of its own. So it really made sense for me. And I'm not going to read all of these, but when you're thinking about like how you're interacting with people in the world on technology, with devices, with the programs that we're creating, with AI, artificial intelligence, with machine learning, what does that look like? Are we actually putting things out that are helpful? Is it harmful? When we're like wanting to send that email out or that text back, are we taking a moment to pause and saying, hey, what are we really doing? What's my intention? Am I being mindful here? It translates so well, from a technical and from a media perspective. All right, so I did want to throw these things up because my team, our comm team, is always talking about, taking care of self. As again, the you can't help folks with an empty cup. Again, you heard Cosette yesterday talking about putting the oxygen on yourself first. So when you're using technology and the tools, be present. You know, I'm so guilty at work of doing multitasking. I don't think I have a day to where I'm single tasking anything. I'm trying to be on the call at my job, and people are pinging me through the IM, and there's an email trains going on. So I mean, how can we really, you know, be present with the task that we're on? I mean, am I doing the call justice if I'm really a third of my mind is on two other things at the time? Nah, not really, right? Um, Again, the second one is reading things before I send it, especially when I'm emotionally charged, because I can read an email and I can feel in my body. We've been talking a lot this week about body, being in your body and feeling your body, and how does that, what does that feel like? And if there's any stress or, being kind of present in your body. So this translate also to social media and technology. Folks, if you're like sending crazy texts or you're responding on social media, not being really aware of the things that you're writing, just really be present with that. I mean, is your online activity in alignment with your practice? I mean, are you angry, anxious, upset after reading stuff? I mean, is that podcast or that 10th news broadcast that you got on your phone, is that really helping you out? So you really have to, ask yourself in every aspect of your being, and that includes how you are online, because that is another aspect of you. Am I being in alignment with what the person that I'm trying to be or wanting to be in my practice? Again, your online present. We talked about our online presence being an extension of who we are, and always remember. I think people sometimes forget it's easy when you are not seeing people face to face, that there's somebody at the other end of that text, that email, that post. I mean, it's see that text as a person, and then give yourself permission to unplug. That's critical. It's okay. Like, this is a gift to be here with the sangha today, to be able to take the time to sit with our mind and to actually just be on the cushion. So you don't have to be in retreat to do that. You can give yourself time to unplug, and then you may need a media fast sometime. It's okay. Um, this comes up in a lot of our morning meditation conversations with the Falmouth group. Giving us ourselves the permission to unplug and do things like that. So, I mean, for me, this is how I'm practicing personally, with technology and social media. I am using these tools and resources as they are an extension of myself in my practice, and that's something that you have to do constantly. And it's not like we don't have gazillion opportunities to do that in the current world that we live in. All right. So let's talk about practicing with the Sangha in the midst of the pandemic. And we're doing that right now, actually. Um, this is one of screenshots of Zenku's, one of the groups that we were having. And this was his talk that we did on a Sunday. And this is exactly one of the things I was talking about, having outreach to the senior teachers across the Sangha to be able to ask them for help. Because in the midst, we knew that we needed to figure out a way to come together, and we needed to ask our seniors, our senior teachers, to for help and guidance. And again, they each said, yes, I'm going to come and talk, I'll be a guest speaker Sunday. And then we have Hojo Sensei, who was, he really translates well to media. He's a design guy. So it was really easy for us to really work with moving a lot of the things that we used to do in the Zendo out online. And guess what happened? We have more attendance on Sundays. Our programs are more attended. We have people that are in the mountains, up in the mountains, that couldn't even get in. We have our book club exploded because Atlanta traffic was so bad during the normal non-pandemic time. So this really pushed us into really evolving the way that we are actually doing our programs. And we actually, we have started outreaching into the communities on first Sunday's our guest speaker Sunday, and we are asking community leaders to come in and speak. We've had a Tibetan Buddhist speaker. We've had Sanya Osowo with the Global Mandala speak. And I think this is another way that we connect in and connect out into the community and become, and expand our practice and become a resource for those around us that are needing to, so desperately wanting to connect. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of folks wanting to connect, and we're feeling, people are, are feeling disconnected, and they're looking for ways to connect. And I feel that when we are creating tools and resources, we're kind of like a beacon out there in the midst. We're putting out, like Corolla said, we're putting out waving the Home Depot apron out there. So when people know that they need help, they can come, and there's some refuge to come back to, and in the world, in the midst of things. And that solidifies us together as a Sangha, and also the community in our practice. So we quickly moved to doing Zoom. We, queried the community to see, what kind of things that they would be open to doing. And also we worked and are trying to work to build a residency program to become more engaged with our tools and our techniques too. Again, human interconnectivity. This was happening before the pandemic, but now even more so. You got virtual reality. You got people that are overloaded with the technical tools. I mean, the way we're communicating is evolving and changing, ever evolving and changing. However, we still don't want to forget that at the end of the other connections, that there are people, and they're really still, I think people, once we're able to get back together, it will be different. It will be a hybrid of what we've known before. We will want to come together as a people, but I think that COVID has given us the gift of being able to push us outside our comfort zones, to be able to evolve and allow the teachings to translate to meet people where they're at. Because again, not everyone has the opportunity to fly into Atlanta every year. Not everybody has the funds or the resources, but what can we do to help that evolve and to be able to connect people with where they're located? And again, we kind of talked about this, and I kind of stole this from Sensei Sengaku. He did a Dharma talk that he didn't speak a word, but he just, showed these pictures and the emotions of these pictures. So thank you for your teaching, Sensei, on that. The biggest compliment is to steal somebody else's stuff, so I'm gonna give them credit, I think. But I feel like people are all over the place. They're, again, looking for something. They're looking for ways to connect. You see it on people's Facebook accounts and their media accounts. It's a lot of energy, a lot of disconnectivity. But again, even if when you're thinking about building your organizational pages, your websites, your Facebooks, what you put out is what people see. A person may never meet you. That person may never meet you physically, but if they're feeling and have a feeling from what you're putting out, then that's essentially, again, you're representing your organization to them, and you're representing yourself to other people in your media accounts. So again, that's a big thing.
Fusatsu, can I just jump in?
Sure.
You wanted
Yes,
a time
please.
check about halfway through?
Yes, I do. Am I halfway through? Gosh, time's flying. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and also, can you check if you're using a lavalier mic? Did it slide under your Vagesa or something because you got a little
It
bit
did.
quieter?
It did.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me turn up. Let me turn this up. Is that better? Is that better?
Keep talking. So
Is that a little better?
yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My okay. So okay. All right. So let me again. I'm not. I wanted to. I'm not going to go through all these slides because I want to give us time to be able to talk about what the communities are seeing and what the communities are, some of the tools and how we can support that from the comm team. Um, Again, the main media tools that we use are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email marketing, and YouTube right now. Each of these have their own kind of intricacies. You know, Facebook, again, with events, it captures a lot of people. You can market on it. Twitter, short snippets. We post different things to the Twitter accounts. The Instagram accounts are more pictorial. We post a lot of senseis and Reverend Dr. Matsuoka's quotes. And the email tool is a critical for the newsletters. And we just had a recent newsletter go out in October. So, I mean, these are different things that the communities can use to be able to promote within their communities and the communities at large. So, but I'm not going to go. Again, this was mostly a tool for the Sanghas to be able to have resources in a tutorial and for us to memorialize this as a resource so we can educate our different Sanghas. But I don't want to go without saying I want to introduce or give you a review of our communications team. We have Inga Annie Wade, who's not on the call, but she's a UX designer, and she's been a fabulous resource that we had on our team. Cosette's Randy Earl, he is my co-pilot. He does a lot of the back end work and things within our community. I mean, he's our architect. He's a rock. Myself and Sensei Tashin kind of really giving us the overarching view of what the organization is. He kind of steadies us and keeps us on line. And then John Mitchell, the newest member of our team, and he's actually on. And he has really been working hard with Sensei, Hojo Sensei, on the Unmind podcast. So we've done we were gifted to have a group of people come together with great energies and great skill set and tools and the willingness to be able to do the work. And my goal on any committee that I lead is for us to, we're going to do a lot of work, but it's important to have fun and maintain and stay on principle. And it just so happens on this is actually a wonderful mix because we have a brown robe, we have a black robe, we have, hopefully a soon to be disciple, and we have some folks that have had Jukai. So it's a very good mixture if you want to look at it from a path perspective as well. And Cosette's mentioned what we've done. We've built the website for ASDC. We built the STO website this year. And then we have a communication schedule. And I'm not going to go through everything, but all I'm going to say is when you're doing a communication schedule, it's consistency and making sure when you're marketing to have it out consistently and making sure that when you say that you're going to do something, do it. Because if you get people that come to your meetings and on your calls and there's nobody there, that's a huge deterrent. They won't ever show up again. That's bad customer service. So I have this up here and what we send out, what our communication schedule is for STO and ASCC, just as a resource for the Sanghas. So let me go back here. So what does 4-H, a farm, a TI 49 have to do with each other? These are just some of the things that have brought me to you today. My mom was a 4-H agent. I grew up on a farm. In that moment, my dad bought his first TI 99 4A. I was addicted to technology. So again, technology for me, I'm going to end with this so we can have a conversation, is for me a beacon in the midst. It's really us being able to put and lift up the Dharma and saying to people, because for me, the Dharma has changed my life. It's been a gift for me to be able to practice with people and to be able to kind of have a layer of a reference point and a foundation to build from. So I found my family, my Sangha, my community, and basically the principles that I'm standing on foundationally, which has been a beacon to me in the midst. So let's end there and have a conversation. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to share. This is a topic that I get excited about, and I have 4/5 of my tech team on. I'm so excited. So please, not only just me, open up for conversation. We have John Mitchell, wave your hand. We have Cosettes, and is Sensei Tashin back on yet? He's not back on yet. Okay. So I'm
And if John
opening
says
the floor
something,
up.
his face will pop up so that people will see him.
Hi, face. Hello, face to a name.
Here, let me get off of Spotlight. Let me get off Spotlight. There we go.
Yeah.
Let me go back to gallery view. Can y'all see the gallery view?
Yep.
All right. All right, so the floor is everybody's. Don't be shy. Thank you for letting me steal from you, Hojo. I think I stole something from every sensei on the call.
Greatest genius steals from everyone.
Great.
Seigetsu, was that a hand up? Yes.
Yes, it is. A question for the technical team for April. You named Instagram and a variety of other things with which I am not familiar and don't really know how to use, and from the reputation that I've heard of Facebook and things like that, I'm leery of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what I tried 3 or 4 years ago in Jacksonville was Meetup. And that was a tool that my limited technical skill could use. And Jacksonville, I think Bill Mayhew is on. That tool provided the basis for the Jacksonville Soto Zen Center to establish a solid group of people. When I moved from Jacksonville and came back to South Atlanta, I did the same thing. I used Meetup, and the results have been abysmal. I have some 125 people on Meetup, of which maybe a half a dozen have ever showed up. It has not been an effective vehicle here, but it's within my skill set, which is pretty minimal. So I'm not sure what I'm asking. Could you comment on Meetup? Is there an effective way to use it for someone who's not oriented at Instagram, Facebook, and things like that? Or is there even any use in trying to use it?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Meetup is a tool that I think is good for, in addition to, not only. And I say that because we had a Meetup too, and I think Goiji, he used to do our Just Sit Saturdays, and he used to get a really good hits off of Meetup, but it was an additional tool, not the only one. And any of the other tech team, please weigh in on this, because I think it needs, I think from a perspective, you need to kind of mix it up somewhat. And this is exactly why I created the presentation. I know not everybody does Facebook, which is fine, but organizationally, to create an organizational imprint or fingerprint for people to find you, even if you set up an organizational one, because we have members that don't have personal Facebook pages, but ASCC does have one, STO has one, Twitter, things that they're gonna put and grab, get where a lot of people are, is kind of what you want to use. So, and Seigetsu, that's another reason why we are pushing out all of this information, like the podcast. You can grab that, attach to it, and you can get traffic off of that. This is one of the things that we want to have the conversation about today, is that when we push things out, we want to be able to allow that to be resources to the other sanghas, because when you push the stuff out, just like Cosette's perfect example, he posted to YouTube and somebody already outreached to him to ask you when you're meeting. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like you have to mix it up, not just use one tool, but find the sweet spot, and if you need help, we can help you do social media stuff. I mean, it's easy. You're teachable. Everybody's teachable.
Tessin, I see your hand up, but John, had you raised your hand before that a little bit ago?
No, I was just frantically waving my hand to indicate myself as someone who doesn't use Facebook personally anymore.
Okay.
And I survive just fine.
Okay.
And I kind of do this for a living, and I still don't use it. So I don't think that it's really a matter of like making yourself use a tool that you find distasteful, I think your leeriness of Facebook is warranted.
Okay.
I guess this turned into a comment. Like I can say it quickly. Like I'm not sure that I would advocate for thinking of the tools in your arsenal as specific companies' platforms, but rather as the various media and means by which you can communicate what you do. And so Meetup is a tool that's for creating events bounded in time at a specific location, but there are other tools that can be used to publish that kind of information. And what matters is the event and planning the event and doing the outreach to make sure that people find out about the event, rather than putting it up in a specific place.
Okay, thank you. And Tessen and Ivana, I saw your hand. We'll come to you after Tessen.
Yeah, this is directed to Fusatsu. So when you're talking about like pushing on additional tools and capabilities to the other sanghas, basically, it sounds to me what you're suggesting, and I think people need to hear this, is basically tools that you can sort of drop in their lap that they can, in effect, take that and run with pretty much as is, and not like they have to start from scratch and reinvent the wheel and get out a bunch of manuals and go through a bunch of rigmarole, but probably something that you're going to hand to them sort of like pre-made components that they can plug and play, if I understand where you go.
Yeah, that's our plan. Like, for instance, like Sensei's Unmind podcast, hugely beneficial. That's our teacher, one of our founding teachers, basically to music, and the younger people love music. It's short, it's a snippet, it's Dharma. Take that, post it on your site, put your logo on it. Wow, somebody's like, they'll say, "What's that? Let me go look at that site. Where'd that come from?" You see, what these are exactly the tools and resources that we wanted to help. And this is the next phase. The websites revamping were the first phase. Again, the beacon out, like, hey, we're here. It's usable, it's friendly. And now we start to put tools and resources out there for, again, our sanghas to use. Like, again, Reverend Dr. Matsuoka's quotes we put out weekly against Sensei's art. Again, the no-brainers, those can go on like any type of media. They're beautiful, they're Dharma. So how, you're exactly right, Tessin, how can we use these tools and resources as a meta sangha to help propagate Zen, get the word out? Again, we are putting up the beacon. Who comes to us, they have to take the ability to show up and, do the work to get to us too. So it's a balance.
Okay, Vonna, did you have a comment?
No, actually, I had raised my hand because I wanted to show my agreement with what John was saying regarding Facebook. That's all. I didn't
Okay.
have a question. But thank you for being so.
Hojo, I see your hand up.
Tessin actually addressed the question I wanted to bring up. Where I hope we can go is in a direction so that those of us who are media savvy, and I'm not included in that group, are able to provide the vehicles and the means by which, and the rest of us can provide content. But I think you didn't, April, Fusatsu, I think Tessin was asking a question. So we have the Unmind, we have the Matsuoka quotes, we have this, we have that. How would Tessin access that and go pick it up and paste it into his system so he doesn't have to recreate it? I think that's more the question. Philosophically, I think we're all on the same page. But technically, how does Halifax, Chicago, any of the other centers, how do their low-grade technical people like me, can we send them a cheat sheet of some kind that says, here's what we have, here's the menu of stuff that is available to you to put on your website, here's where you can provide content to us, like John Mitchell has talked about hosting podcasts in which others than myself provide content. We're trying to get mine up to 52, so I think it'll actually be a weekly, it won't be a ad hoc, if I understand where John's going with this as
Oh yeah,
producer.
it's already weekly.
Yeah, so John is producing that, so I think you'd have two offers. One would be to anybody else in the network who is willing and able to provide content for a podcast, and it has to be consistent, as April is saying. John will have a limited amount of time. He couldn't produce, I'm looking at 23, 24 people. Maybe that would be too,
That's a full-time job.
too many to produce. But I think we have two sides to it. One is you can provide content for these vehicles, and here they are. We need content for these vehicles, and the newsletter is an example that a lot of people already understand. And then the other would be, here's content we have for you already packaged. Here's how you put that, here's how you cut and paste it, so you don't have to be technically savvy.
Yeah, and I think we can do that. And again, I'm also known as the gatekeeper. I'm kind of like, again, we have limited tools and resources, and I want our team to continue to show up to my meetings. So, you'll hear me sometimes say, hey, I'm in the parking lot that's on our 2021 planning. We're closed out for major projects this year, but that doesn't mean that we're not taking on any more. But you're right. So what we've done so far, the communication schedule, and I'll post this presentation, is a list of things that we currently do and where we post it. We have made a point to post every time John does an unmind, I'll grab it and we'll post it on STO as well. So everything that we do for ASDC, I post to STO as well. So that, and again, if we're not using Facebook, we should figure out another way to be able to get that out as well. I also post it to Twitter. We're posting it to all of the major, tools that STO has, because again, I realized quickly that STO is kind of our, umbrella that encompasses all of our affiliates. So we wanted them to be able to have access. So we really are very mindful of keeping STO information updated. So anytime they have a podcast or a blog, any of the senseis, they give me permission to use their blogs to post as well. So I'm constantly putting that out on Sign and Thunder Order. But we will put that on our list to do, is to create an instructional of how to use the tools and resources that are existing in the affiliate songs, if that would be helpful to send.
Very much so. Thank you.
Okay, just a quick time check. We've got about 10 minutes. I see Bill Mayhew's hand up.
I'm so bad I have to remind myself to turn the mute button off. Another aspect of these media type things from a local level, a different perspective. And Roger, by the way, we still use Meetup, but we now have Facebook and a website. Not that they're very useful, but I think they generate some pride within our local group. Whether or not they're ever used, we can say, yeah, we've got a website, and yeah, we are on Facebook, and yeah, we're associated with the STO, and we've got a mountain retreat that the Atlanta Zen Center has, and just to let your people know that there's more to you than just going down to the church Monday night and sitting there.
And Bill, your website is beautiful, by the way. It's a perfect example of when I go to your website, I know who's there. I have a feel of the community. I just wanted to give you that feedback. And their Sangha just also has T-shirts. So I want to promote their T-shirts, which I want one. So, again, that's a perfect example of mixed modes of media there and utilization.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Brian Chishiki.
Keep trying to find a good place where we're not totally washed out and where we're not completely in shadow. I just wanted to say something to Fusatsu about the talk and say thank you very much for all of that. And at the end, you finally found your Sangha, and I was thinking we got the better end of that deal. Thank you so much. I can't bow enough. Thank you so much.
Glad I found my family.
Okay. Anyone
I
else?
think Sensei Hojo, I think, is kind of waving the finger in the dark over there. Is that pointing to the plant? Is that like pointing to the moon, Sensei?
Now, that was the other question I had along the same lines. I'm not savvy in this, but is it technically possible that for our affiliates and any new startup, we can offer a template web page based on ours where they don't have to build it? They can somehow just pick it up and cut and paste it, something like that, where they could be up and running with a web page overnight or within a day or two. And it's basically hosted by us as a network. Is that possible?
There are varying degrees of options. I think I saw John giving the same kind of thing. It's like, you know, we could set up a subdomain to a page on our site would be the easiest type of thing. You know, there's different degrees, and we can talk about that.
The thing that I would say is that if affiliates are comfortable using Squarespace, which does require an annual subscription, which is what the ASCC website is hosted on, it is possible to just clone the site and give it to someone. So the answer is yes, but there are costs associated with it.
So,
Okay, Zinku?
I know that's kind of like a mixed answer. So maybe we can kind of explore our options, Hojo Sensei.
Well, and that's part of the trick with the tech world is that invariably the answer to almost any question is there's a lot of different options and it depends, and there's a lot of different factors that come into play. But Zenku, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, you know, first and foremost, what Fusatsu, what you have done and what the communication committee has done is very transformational. The timeliness of it is beyond words. And but what I'm thinking is kind of coming back a little bit to where we are right now. I think this retreat has been a wonderful experiment. It's been a wonderful. I think we've done a lot. I think we've communicated a lot. We've brought the Sangha together. And just to move this whole thing forward is, you know, I'm thinking about from a retreat committee standpoint, kind of looking at what we've accomplished. And obviously, I don't know where the retreat committee ends and where the communication starts and vice versa. So, but I would very much like to come together with, okay, we want to get feedback from everybody. We're going to have a questionnaire that we want you all to give us positive and negative feedback, and so we can learn from it and figure out, all right, from this example, what do we do in the future? How do we have opportunities for teaching and for practice and do this effectively? What do we learn from this experience and get better and better and better and better at it into next year, for example, and on and on. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And but you know, the sky's the limit. I see so many possibilities, and my website is getting old and stale, so I'm very sensitive to the whole idea of working, keep upgrading and making things and our visibility more vibrant and attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, one of the, go ahead, Cosette.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're so great, it's so great that we have within our community, and you will have seen it even through the designs, and I'm sorry, I'm near the airport, y'all are hearing the planes, is that you'll see elements of Hojo Sensei, of Matsuoka, of Zenku, of Sengai. I mean, our lineage is embedded in those tools. So that's another way of propagating our teaching in our drama. So I mean, it's very, we're very grateful. We're very grateful to have that in our community, to have that element as well. Hojo Sensei?
Just from a marketing perspective, consistency is not that critical these days because we have such saturation. Like you used to keep your logo, like Coca-Cola, you had to keep it very, very consistent, constant. They wouldn't let you change anything. And but then along came MTV and along came Google. So but there is something to be said for branding. We have the best product, you could say, in the world. Soto's in, you couldn't have a better brand. But there's something to be said for consistency across all of our affiliates, so that not only do they not have to reinvent the wheel to post a website, but their website will have basically the same navigation, similar look, and so forth. So there could be some customization of it, like the banner on the front page could be the local website's banner and whatever they want to do. But there's something to be said for that kind of consistency from STO affiliate to STO affiliate across the board.
Agreed.
So
I
we've
know
only
Cosette, you're keeping me
we've only got a
on the
few minutes
time.
left here. Any other
right.
question? In that case, I'll use the co-host privilege to make one final comment. I've often heard, we've all heard, I'm sure, you know, Hojo Elliston say, what would Dogen do in this situation? And I think this is a prime example of how we are facing that question. You know, how do we practice in this era? How do we propagate the Dharma in this era? And I think we are living that question. You know, what would Dogen do? And that's what we're doing right now. We're examining how we practice and how we build Sangha, maintain Sangha in the situation we are in now.
Mm-hmm. And
so,
that's why the title, "The World Is Your Sangha," was perfect, right?
Exactly. So
again,
I think I can say on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for the talk and for your tireless efforts.
My pleasure.
Okay, then it's time for a little break before the next sitting session.
Oh, the Dharma closing verse.
Let's take about 3 minutes, and then we'll enter into our next period of zazen.
Sensei Sengaku, can we do the Dharma closing verse real quick?
Sure.
Let me jump back over to the other presentation. Can everyone see me?
We can see the slide, yes.
Okay, good, very good.
And please mute everyone before chanting.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize that beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize that beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize them.